Welcome back to Explaining Everything, the channel where we dive into the stories and mysteries behind everyday things. Today's question comes from one of our curious viewers, Toaster Drama 42. Thanks for the suggestion, Toaster Drama. You asked, who is Pete and why do we keep speaking for his sake? If you've ever heard someone blurt out, "For Pete's sake," in a moment of pure frustration, maybe after stepping on a Lego or realizing their coffee was decaf, you might have paused and wondered, who exactly is Pete? And why is everyone always so worked up on his behalf? Well, today, we're digging into the origins of this mysterious phrase, tracing it all the way back through polite swearing, religious loopholes, and the rise of one very unlucky name. We're breaking it all down right here on Explaining Everything. Let's time travel back to a world where people were very religious and very polite about their cursing. This was sometime around the 19th century, when people still used phrases like zounds and egad with a straight face. Back then, swearing wasn't just frowned upon, it was borderline scandalous. Taking the Lord's name in vain? That could get you disapproving looks and maybe a surprise exorcism. So instead of saying, "For God's sake," people came up with euphemisms, polite little substitutions. Enter Pete. "For Pete's sake" was a cleaner, less blasphemous way of saying "for Christ's sake" or "for God's sake." It let you express annoyance without accidentally booking yourself a one-way ticket to eternal damnation. And no, Pete wasn't some guy who kept forgetting his keys or ruining brunch plans. Pete was just a placeholder, a decoy, the ultimate scapegoat for your frustration. Sorry, Pete. So, is Pete actually St. Peter? Probably. If we had to assign a face to this name, it would be St. Peter, one of Jesus' apostles and the guy who's supposedly guarding the pearly gates of heaven. You know, the celestial bouncer. He was a pretty big deal in early Christianity, so invoking his name was considered a step down from shouting about God or Jesus directly. Like, I'm not mad at the boss, I'm mad at the assistant manager. So when you said, "For Pete's sake," it was a way of saying, I'm annoyed, but I'm still polite about it. Imagine being so respectful in your rage that you invented an entire decoy saint to absorb it. But why Pete? Why not Steve? Honestly, no one knows for sure. It could have been Steve, or Doug, or Larry, but Pete just worked. It's got that hard P sound at the beginning, which makes it pop out when you're annoyed. For Pete's sake sounds more satisfying than for Clarence's sake. That one just feels like a guy who collects antique light bulbs. Also, Pete has that timeless everyman vibe. You don't meet many babies named Pete anymore, but if you did, you'd probably trust them to fix your sink. Pete feels reliable, like someone you can depend on to get flustered for. The phrase really started popping up in the 1800s, especially in America. It became a common way for people to blow off steam without crossing any moral lines. And once it got into popular culture, it just stayed. For Pete's sake became part of the polite exasperation starter pack, alongside phrases like "good grief" and "heavens to Betsy." We'll save Betsy for another episode. She's got her own mystery. Soon enough, cartoons, sitcoms, and grandmas across the English-speaking world adopted it. You couldn't open a newspaper comic or hear a sitcom dad struggling with a lawnmower without Pete being dragged into it. Honestly, Pete's been through a lot. He never asked for this. He just wanted to chill in biblical retirement, and now he's become the emotional punching bag of Western irritation. Pete is eternal. Even if you don't say it yourself, you know someone who does. It's usually someone who still uses a landline, owns a drawer full of ketchup packets, or says things like, "Well, butter my biscuit," unironically. It's the kind of phrase that's safe to use around toddlers and grandmothers alike. A PG way to let off steam. It's like swearing with oven mitts on. Plus, it's kind of funny. There's something inherently hilarious about assigning your frustration to a completely random, possibly ancient dude named Pete. Like, "My email crashed for the 3rd time today. For Pete's sake." Poor Pete. Somewhere in the cosmos, he's like, "What did I do?" We live in a world full of minor inconveniences. Socks disappear in the laundry. Autocorrect turns "meeting at noon" into "melting a raccoon." Sometimes you just need to yell something that sounds angry but is ultimately meaningless. And that's where Pete shines. Pete is the emotional safety net, the exasperation mascot, the unpaid intern of your frustration. Every time you mutter his name, you're really just shouting into the void with training wheels. So the next time you drop your phone on your face in bed or accidentally hit reply all on an office email, just go ahead and say it, loud and proud. For Pete's sake. And somewhere, Pete will sigh and take it like a champ. If you enjoyed this video, do us a favor. For Pete's sake, hit that like button and subscribe. Pete would want you to. Also, if you have suggestions for our next video, feel free to share them in the comments below. We'll be sure to give you an acknowledgement for your contribution. Thank you for tuning in, and join us next time here in the channel that answers all the why, what, who, where, and how questions you've always wondered about, here on Explaining Everything.